Let me begin with a question that most people never stop to ask themselves. Why is it that so many people work hard every day, yet never seem to get ahead? They wake up early. They stay busy. They put in the hours, and still life feels like a treadmill, running, sweating, trying, but never really moving forward. Now, here's the mistake most people make. They assume the problem is effort. They say, if I just work harder, things will change. So they add more hours, more stress, more exhaustion. But let me tell you something important. Hard work alone does not guarantee progress. If it did, farmers would all be millionaires. Construction workers would all be wealthy, and exhaustion would be the fastest path to success. But it isn't. The real issue is not how hard you work. It's what direction your effort is pointed in. You see, effort without strategy creates fatigue. Effort without improvement creates frustration. Effort without growth creates stagnation. And that's where most people get stuck. They're busy but not advancing, active but not improving, committed but not becoming more valuable. Now let me say this gently but clearly. Life does not reward effort. Life rewards value. The marketplace doesn't pay you for how tired you are. It pays you for how useful you've become. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Many people work hard at the wrong things for too long. They repeat the same year over and over and call it a career. They repeat the same habits and call it loyalty. They repeat the same mistakes and call it bad luck. But luck has very little to do with it. Progress comes when effort is paired with daily improvement. And this is where the gap appears. Most people are willing to work hard. Very few are willing to work intentionally. They don't ask, how am I getting better? They ask, how can I survive another week? And survival is a dangerous goal because when survival becomes the focus, growth disappears. Let me put it another way. You don't get paid for your time. You get paid for what you bring to that time. Two people can work the same number of hours. One struggles, the other advances. The difference is not effort. It is development. And if you work on yourself more than you work on your job, you will stay exactly where you are. Now here's the good news. If you've been working hard but not getting ahead, that does mean you were broken. It means you've been missing a few critical disciplines, not big dramatic changes, not risky leaps, but small daily adjustments that quietly change the trajectory of your life. Over the next sections, I'm going to show you why hard work alone is enough. And what must be added to it if you want real progress. Because once you understand this, you stop blaming life and start redesigning it. And that's where everything changes. Now let's take this a step deeper, because once you accept that hard work by itself is enough, the next question becomes obvious. Why does effort translate into progress for most people? The answer is simple but uncomfortable. Most people work hard inside the same patterns for years. They don't change how they think. They don't change how they decide. They don't change how they use their time. They just repeat yesterday with more fatigue. And repetition without refinement is not growth. It is routine. You see, effort is only powerful when it's paired with improvement. If you keep doing the same tasks with the same skills, using the same mindset, you don't become more valuable. You just become more tired. That is why some people can work twice as hard and still earn half as much. The marketplace does not reward strain. It rewards skill, judgment, and leverage. Let me put it plainly. If all you ever sell is your time, your income will always have a ceiling. Time is limited. Energy is limited. But value can grow. And the people who get ahead understand this early. They ask different questions. Not how many hours did I work today, but what did I learn today? What did I improve today? What did I do today that makes me more valuable tomorrow? Most people never ask those questions. They measure their life by effort instead of progress. They go home exhausted and say, I worked hard today. But exhaustion is not a measurement of success. improvement is. And here is where the trap tightens. When people don't see results from hard work, they don't question the strategy. They blame the economy. They blame the boss. They blame the system. But the real issue is rarely outside. It's internal neglect. Neglect of skills. Neglect of thinking. Neglect of discipline. Hard work without personal growth is like running faster on the wrong road. You don't arrive sooner. You just get lost more quickly. And that is why frustration builds. Because deep down, people sense that effort should be enough. But life does work on effort. Life works on value exchanged. If you want more income, you must bring more value. If you want better opportunities, you must become more capable. If you want advancement, you must grow beyond where you are. And growth does not happen automatically. It must be scheduled. It must be practiced. It must be intentional. Here's the turning point. The day you decide to work harder on yourself than you work on your job is the day your life begins to change direction. Because jobs come and go. Markets shift. Companies change. But your skills go with you. Your mindset goes with you. Your discipline goes with you. And those things determine whether hard work pays off or simply wears you out. Now, let's talk about something most people don't want to admit. Many people aren't failing because they were lazy. They're failing because they were busy in the wrong way. They confuse movement with progress, activity with advancement, effort with effectiveness. And that confusion can cost you years. You see, being busy is easy. True productivity is rare. Most people fill their days reacting to emails, reacting to requests, reacting to problems created by poor planning. At the end of the day, they're exhausted, but nothing meaningful has changed. Their income looks the same. Their skills look the same. Their future looks the same. And that's because busyness is not leverage. Let me say that again, because it matters. Busyness does not multiply results. Leverage does. Leverage comes from skills that scale. Judgment that improves, decisions that compound. But most people never build leverage because they never slow down long enough to improve the way they work. They keep saying, I don't have time to learn. I don't have time to think. I don't have time to plan. And that's exactly why they stay stuck. Because if you don't make time to improve, you'll spend your life making time to struggle. Now, here's another truth. Many people work hard at tasks that make them replaceable. If someone else can easily do what you do, you'll always be under pressure. Pressure from wages, pressure from competition, pressure from uncertainty. The goal is not to work harder. The goal is to work on becoming less replaceable. That means developing skills that are difficult to copy, better thinking, better communication, better problem solving, better leadership. These don't come from staying busy. They come from intentional growth. And here's where people hesitate, because growth requires humility. It requires admitting, I don't know enough yet. I need to improve. I have blind spots. Most people would rather stay busy than face that discomfort. So they keep working harder at the same level instead of upgrading themselves to the next one. But life doesn't move in circles. It moves in levels. And you don't rise to the next level by repeating the same habits. You rise by changing what you practice daily. Let me give you a simple distinction. If you're paid by the hour, your income is tied to time. If you're paid for results, your income is tied to value. And the only way to move from time-based income to value-based income is personal development. That's why some people seem to move ahead effortlessly while others struggle despite working nonstop. It's not luck, it's leverage. And leverage is built quietly, daily, intentionally. Now, this is where everything begins to change. Because once you realize that hard work alone is not the answer, you must ask a different question. Not, how do I work harder? But how do I become more valuable? That question changes everything. You see, success does not come from working harder on your job. It comes from working harder on yourself. Your job will pay you just enough to keep you. But personal development will pay you for life. Most people reverse this. They spend all day working on their job and no time working on their skills, their thinking, their discipline, and then they wonder why nothing changes. Let me give you a simple principle. For things to change, you must change. For things to get better, you must get better. Wages don't grow because you need more money. Opportunities don't appear because you're tired. They show up when you become more capable. If you bring more value to the marketplace rewards you, not out of kindness, out of necessity. Now, here's the mistake people make. They think personal development requires big blocks of time. It doesn't. It requires consistency. 10 minutes of reading a day, a few minutes of reflection, one new skill practiced regularly, small improvements repeated daily, create a different person over time. And that different person gets different results. If you improve your skills by just 5%, you become more valuable. If you improve your judgment, you make better decisions. If you improve your discipline, you follow through. And suddenly, hard work starts producing results. Not because you're working more hours, but because each hour is worth more. Let me say this clearly. You don't get paid for your time. You get paid for what you know, what you can do, and how well you do it. That's why two people can sit at the same desk, work the same hours, and have very different futures. One stays stuck. The other moves ahead. The difference is not effort. It is growth. And growth must be scheduled. It must be intentional. It must become a daily habit. If you want your life to change, start by upgrading the person living it. Now here. The part most people don't like to hear, even after they understand everything we've talked about, even after they agree with it, most people still don't change. Not because the ideas are wrong, not because the path is unclear, but because change requires something deeper than effort. It requires responsibility. You see, it's far more comfortable to believe that your situation is caused by the economy, the company, the government, or someone else as decisions. Because if the problem is outside of you, then the solution is outside of you too. And that means you don't have to change. Most people don't resist hard work. They resist self-examination. They don't want to ask, what habits are costing me? What skills am I neglecting? What am I avoiding improving? Because those questions demand honesty, and honesty can be uncomfortable. So instead, people stay busy, they stay distracted, they stay reactive. They fill their lives with noise, so they don't have to sit quietly and face the truth about what needs to change. Here is another reason people don't shift. Improvement delays gratification. When you work on yourself, the rewards don't show up immediately. You read today, nothing changes tomorrow. You practice a skill for weeks, no applause. You discipline yourself quietly. No one notices, and most people want immediate feedback. They want fast results, fast recognition, fast relief. But personal development does work that way. It pays in compound interest, not instant rewards. And that is why few people stay with it long enough to see the breakthrough. There's also fear. Fear of discovering that you could have done more earlier. Fear of realizing that some limits were self-imposed. Fear of stepping into responsibility and losing excuses. Excuses are comfortable. They give you a place to rest, but they also keep you where you are. And here is the real danger. If you don't choose to grow intentionally, life will choose for you. And life is not gentle with neglect. Skills become outdated. Opportunities pass quietly. Confidence erodes slowly, not all at once, but enough to keep you stuck. That's why most people stay in the same place year after year, doing more of the same, hoping for something different. But hope is not a strategy. Change begins when you decide that comfort is too expensive. When you decide that staying the same costs more than improving. And that decision, that internal shift, is where everything starts Now let us talk about what actually creates separation. Because once the decision is made to work on yourself, the next question becomes simple but important. What do you do every day? Not once in a while, not when you feel motivated, but daily. You see, life is largely a matter of habit. What you do occasionally has very little impact. What you do consistently shapes everything. The people who get ahead don't necessarily do extraordinary things. They do ordinary things extraordinarily well, and they do them daily. They read when others scroll. They plan when others react. They reflect when others rush. Small habits, quiet habits, but powerful ones. Let me be very clear. Success is not created in intensity. It is created in consistency. Most people wait for motivation to act. Successful people act, and motivation follows. They don't ask, do I feel like improving today? They ask, who am I becoming by what I do today? And here, that's one of the biggest distinctions. People who get ahead design their days. People who stay stuck let their days design them. They decide in advance what deserves their best energy. They protect time for learning, time for thinking, time for improvement, not because they have more time, but because they respect it more. Another habit that separates progress from stagnation is reflection. At the end of the day, successful people ask simple questions. What worked today? What did what should I do differently tomorrow? Most people never pause long enough to ask. They move from one day to the next without learning from either. And that is costly because experience alone does make you better. Evaluated experience does. Now let me add something important. The habits that change your life are often the ones that don't feel urgent. Reading isn't urgent. Planning isn't urgent. Skill building isn't urgent. But neglecting them creates urgency later. Urgency in finances, urgency in health, urgency in confidence. The disciplined person avoids future urgency by practicing daily preparation, and that is the real payoff. You don't feel the benefit immediately, but life becomes lighter over time, less pressure, more options, more control. That is what daily habits give you, not overnight success, but long-term freedom. That now let talk about income, because this is where frustration usually shows up first. People say, I work hard, but I'm not paid enough. I deserve more. I should be further ahead by now. And maybe they were right. But income does not respond to effort alone. It responds to value. Your income will rarely grow beyond the value you bring to the marketplace. That is not punishment. That is simply how life works. If your skills stay the same, your income stays the same. If your thinking stays the same, your opportunities stay the same. If your contribution stays the same, your rewards stay the same. Many people want higher income without higher capability, but the marketplace does to work on need. It works on usefulness. Let me put it this way. If you had the ability to solve bigger problems, you would be paid more. If you could lead more people, you would earn more. If you could make better decisions, you would advance faster. Income is a reflection of personal development. That is why education pays. That is why skill pays. That is why leadership pays. And that is also why working harder at the same level produces frustration instead of progress. Most people focus on income first and development second. Successful people reverse that. They say, if I grow, income will follow. And they were right. Here's something else to consider. Income grows in steps, not lines. You don't get a little more money every time you work a little harder. You get more money when you cross a new level of value. That might come from learning a new skill, taking on responsibility, improving judgment, solving problems others avoid. And those things don't happen accidentally. They happen because someone chose to grow when it was required. They learned when it was urgent. They prepared when no one was watching. And then one day opportunity appeared and they were ready. That is why preparation looks unnecessary until it becomes priceless. If your income has been flat for years, it's not a sign of bad luck. It's feedback. Feedback that says it has time to grow. And the good news is growth is available to anyone willing to practice it daily. Now let me talk to you about something that quietly holds more people back than failure ever does. Comfort. Failure gets your attention. Comfort puts you to sleep. When you fail, you reflect, you adjust, you grow. But when you are comfortable, you stop asking questions. You stop pushing. You stop preparing. And that is dangerous because comfort feels like stability, but it often stagnation in disguise. Many people are unhappy enough to change. They are just comfortable enough to stay the same. They are not broke, but they are not building. They are not miserable, but they are not progressing. They are not failing, but they are not winning either. And that middle ground can steal decades. You see, growth usually requires discomfort. Learning feels awkward at first. Discipline feels restrictive. Change feels uncertain. So most people avoid it. They say, I'll start when things calm down. I'll work on myself when I have more time. I'll grow when it becomes necessary. But here, as the truth, if growth waits until it is necessary, it is often already late. Comfort slowly reduces urgency, and urgency is what creates momentum. That is why people stay in jobs they've outgrown, relationships they've settled for, routines that no longer serve them. Not because they were trapped, but because comfort has dulled their edge. And here, as the irony, comfort today often creates pressure tomorrow. Pressure in finances, pressure in confidence, pressure in options. What you done a challenge now, you will be forced to deal with later. That is why the disciplined person chooses a little discomfort now to avoid a lot of pain later. They read when they could relax. They practice when they could coast. They improve when no one is demanding it, not because it is easy, but because it is wise. Failure can teach you quickly. Comfort teaches you nothing. And the people who get ahead are not the ones who avoid discomfort. They are the ones who choose it intentionally for growth. Now, let us talk about the decisions that don't feel important, because those are the ones shaping your life the most. Your life is not primarily shaped by the big decisions you remember. It's shaped by the small ones you barely notice. What time you wake up, what you read or don't read, what you tolerate, what you postpone. These choices don't feel dramatic. They don't announce themselves, but repeated daily, they become a direction. Most people think freedom comes from big changes, a new job, a big raise, a sudden opportunity. But freedom is usually built quietly through small, disciplined decisions made consistently, choosing to learn instead of being entertained, choosing to plan instead of react, choosing to improve instead of complain. Each of these choices feels minor in the moment, but together they create momentum. And momentum changes everything. Let me say this clearly. You don't wake up one day trapped. You drift there, and you don't wake up one day free either. You build that one decision at a time. Every day, you are either reinforcing a habit that limits you or practicing a habit that expands your options. There is no neutral. When you choose comfort repeatedly, you narrow your future. When you choose discipline repeatedly, you widen it. And here's something most people miss. The disciplined choices that create freedom often feel restrictive at first. Saying no feels limiting until it protects your time. Planning feels rigid until it reduces chaos. Learning feels slow until it multiplies your value. But over time, those choices reverse. What once felt restrictive becomes liberating. And what once felt easy becomes costly. That is the quiet trade most people never notice until years have passed. Your future is being negotiated daily by the choices you repeat. And the good news is this. You don't have to change everything today. You just have to become aware of what you are practicing. Because Awareness is the beginning of control. Now let me bring this all together, because everything we've talked about comes down to one simple truth. Your life will not change by chance. It will only change by choice. And not a single choice, but a pattern of choices. You suddenly arrive at frustration. You practice it. You suddenly arrive at success. You practice that too. Day by day, decision by decision. Most people wait. They wait for motivation. They wait for clarity. They wait for the perfect moment. But the perfect moment rarely comes. What comes instead is another day, another choice, another opportunity to repeat what you did yesterday. And here, as the part I want you to remember, the direction you're headed matters more than your speed. You can work fast in the wrong direction and still end up disappointed. But you can move slowly in the right direction and completely change your life. Hard work will always be part of success, but hard work without growth leads to burnout. Effort without awareness leads to frustration. Busyness without intention leads nowhere. The shift happens when you stop asking, how hard am I working? And start asking, who am I becoming? Because the world does not reward intentions. It rewards development. It rewards value. It rewards contribution. And every day you have a chance to become a little more valuable, a little wiser, a little more disciplined. That's how people quietly get ahead. Not overnight, not dramatically, but inevitably. If you've been working hard and not seeing results, don't be discouraged. Be redirected, because effort plus growth changes everything. Start where you are with what you have. Improve one small thing today, then do it again tomorrow. Because success is not something you chase. It's something you attract by the person you become. And that process, that quiet daily commitment to growth, is what finally allows hard work to start paying you back. Not just in money, but in confidence, in options, in peace of mind. And that, my friends, is how you stop working hard and start moving ahead.